Ethan stood in the doorway as Claire packed the last of her things. Her perfume still lingered on the air like a ghost that refused to leave. Outside, the storm was coming. Thunder rolled low across the horizon, a warning too late to matter. She said she needed something more, words sharp enough to cut the silence between them. He didn't beg. He simply watched her walk into the arms of Daniel, the man she once called a fantasy, now made real. As the taillights vanished into the rain, Ethan whispered to no one, "May your dream never wake you." Morning came hollow. Ethan sat on the porch with coffee gone cold, replaying her last words until they no longer meant anything. Neighbors waved. He pretended to smile. In the distance, laughter from another home filled the silence. A reminder that the world moves on, even when your heart doesn't. Claire's new world shimmered like a mirage. Rooftop dinners, city lights, Daniel's promises echoing like poetry rehearsed. Yet, beneath it all, a quiet ache followed her, a whisper of the home she'd left behind. Ethan started painting again, not for her, but for the silence she left. Each brushstroke carried the weight of words unsaid, colors bleeding where apologies never came. Night fell heavy with rain again. Ethan walked the empty rooms, tracing the outline of her absence, every drawer, every echo. But as thunder rolled outside, he realized something quietly profound. She was gone, and he was still here. In the first months, Claire's life with Daniel gleamed like a movie reel. Fine wine, rooftop sunsets, promises that glittered under candlelight. But perfection comes with a hum, a low vibration of unease that builds in silence. She began noticing the cracks a glance too cold, laughter that didn't reach his eyes, the way he checked his phone between every toast. Love wasn't absent. It was rehearsed, like dialogue written for someone else's story. Ethan's nights were quieter now. No calls, no sound but the hum of his studio fan. He painted until his hands cramped, until memory blurred into color. His art began selling online, small at first, then more. Strangers found meaning in his loss. For the first time, his pain had purpose. Daniel began to change. The man who once called Claire his muse now called her a distraction. He stayed out late, came home later. Money flowed and vanished like smoke. When she asked questions, his answers were smiles that never reached his eyes. Claire told herself love takes patience, but patience can't fill an empty room. Back home, Ethan's world slowly rebuilt itself, not with joy, but with quiet acceptance. Friends began to return. Laughter slipped into the house like sunlight through cracked blinds. Healing, he realized, wasn't loud. It was found in the ordinary, the smell of morning coffee, the creak of old floorboards, the hum of his own breath. Claire stood before a mirror that no longer flattered. The gold earrings, the silk gowns, they were props now. Daniel's voice echoed from the other room, sharp and dismissive. The illusion had faded, and in its place was the truth she had refused to see. She left love for luxury, and both had betrayed her. Daniel's empire began to crumble the way glass shatters, slowly at first, then all at once. Investments vanished, partners withdrew, and whispers followed him wherever he went. Claire watched him spiral, helpless in a mansion that suddenly felt like a cage. Each day, the space between them widened, filled with silence and unspoken blame. Love turned to tension, and tension turned to fear. The first time Daniel shouted, Claire froze. The second time she answered back, but words became weapons, sharp and unrelenting. He accused her of draining him. She accused him of becoming everything he promised he wasn't. The echo of their argument carried through the empty halls like ghosts, replaying a tragedy. Ethan's art found its rhythm in pain's aftermath. A gallery in the city invited him to showcase his work, pieces born from heartbreak but colored with rebirth. He hesitated, staring at the invitation. He never painted for recognition, only for release. But maybe, he thought, this was what healing looked like, sharing the wound, so it could finally close. Daniel's downfall hit the news like wildfire. Fraud investigations, Lawsuits. A man once untouchable, now cornered by consequence. Claire's phone rang without end. Reporters, creditors, ghosts of Daniel's charm. The walls of their high-rise apartment echoed with his rage and her breaking heart. That night, Daniel didn't come home. The door stayed shut, the air heavy with finality. Claire sat in silence, wrapped in the robe she once wore on their first night together. When morning came, she realized it wasn't the loneliness that broke her. It was the memory of who she used to be before she left Ethan. The dream was over. Reality had reclaimed her. Claire stood on the curb with 2 suitcases and a heart stripped of pride. The mansion was gone. The city felt foreign. And in her hands, all that remained were debts, memories, and a phone she could barely hold steady. She scrolled through her contacts, stopping at a single name she hadn't said aloud in months. Ethan. The hesitation felt heavier than her luggage. She pressed call, and when his voice answered, calm and unfamiliar, she almost hung up. Almost. Ethan didn't know what to say. Her voice carried the tremor of someone who'd lost more than she could admit. He told her to come by if she needed, the words slipping out before his mind could protest. When he hung up, the silence of the house felt different. Not empty, just waiting. When Claire stepped out of the cab, the air around Ethan's house smelled of rain and pine, the same scent from the night she left. He opened the door before she could knock. For a moment, neither spoke. Their eyes told the story, hers, full of apology, his layered with the ache of recognition. Time had changed them both, yet something in that silence felt familiar. Not love reborn, but something gentler, forgiveness waiting for a place to land. They didn't talk about the past right away. Instead, Ethan made tea. Claire sat quietly at the table she once helped choose, tracing the faint scratches in the wood. Every corner of the room was haunted by memory, but neither of them ran from it. They simply existed. 2 people breathing in the same space again, unsure what it meant, but willing to let it unfold. That night, Claire slept in the guest room, the one that used to be filled with paint supplies. Through the thin wall, she could hear Ethan moving, pacing, pausing by her door before retreating. She lay awake, eyes open, realizing that coming home didn't erase what she'd done. But maybe, just maybe, it was the first step toward becoming someone worthy of forgiveness. Morning light spilled into the kitchen, revealing what the night had hidden: awkward silence and unspoken truths. Ethan brewed coffee, movements methodical, as if rhythm could keep the past at bay. Claire entered quietly, barefoot, her hair unkempt, her voice barely above a whisper when she said, "Thank you for letting me stay." He didn't look up. You needed somewhere to go. The space between them filled with everything those words didn't say. Pain, forgiveness, and a history too heavy to erase. Later that afternoon, Ethan took Claire into the garden, the one she'd once planned to fill with roses but never did. Now it was overgrown with wildflowers, beautiful in their defiance. She knelt to touch the soil, realizing time had healed what she abandoned. "It's still here," she whispered. "It always was," Ethan replied. That evening, they sat together on the porch. The air smelled like rain, just as it had the night she left. Claire spoke first, her words trembling. "He made me believe I wasn't enough. But I think I already believed that before I met him." Ethan's eyes softened. "You don't need me to prove you're enough, Claire." It wasn't bitterness in his tone, just truth. Night fell, and with it came the storm again, a mirror of the one that had begun their unraveling. Claire sat by the window watching the rain while Ethan painted in the other room. She walked to the doorway, watching him from behind. He didn't paint her this time. He painted light breaking through clouds. "You always saw beauty in broken things," she whispered. "That's the only place it hides," he replied. The next morning, Ethan found Claire sitting on the porch steps with a packed bag beside her. "I can't stay," she said softly. Not like this. I need to learn how to stand on my own again." Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable, but his voice steady. "Then go find your peace, Claire. Don't run from it this time." She smiled through tears, not the smile of a woman leaving love, but of one finally finding herself. Weeks passed. Ethan returned to his art, but the silence felt different now. Not hollow, but purposeful. He began painting landscapes again, each one brighter than the last, as though color itself had returned to his world. Sometimes he caught himself listening for her footsteps in the hall, then smiled at his own foolishness. Healing wasn't the absence of pain. It was learning to live beside it. Claire rented a small apartment in the old part of town. Brick walls, a single window facing the street, and a mattress on the floor. For the first time in years, she was alone. No grand dinners, no champagne nights, just the sound of her own breathing. Loneliness became her teacher, silence her mirror. She started journaling, painting small sketches, learning how to exist without needing to be seen. Letters began to travel between them. Not every day, not even every week, but enough to bridge the silence. Ethan wrote about his art shows. Claire wrote about her sketches. They never spoke of love, only gratitude. Two people gently rewriting their story without needing to return to it. Each word carried tenderness, not possession. Ethan's first gallery exhibition arrived. As guests filled the space, he felt both proud and hollow. Success couldn't replace what he'd lost, but it illuminated what he'd gained. Across the room, one painting caught attention, a storm clearing over the sea. Beneath it, a single word titled the piece, "Forgiven." That night, Claire walked along the beach miles away, her phone buzzing with a single message: "Your art is beautiful." She smiled, typing back, "It saved me too." The tide whispered against her feet as the stars blurred above. The kind of peace she once thought she could only find in someone else's arms. A year passed. The pain no longer owned them. It simply existed, like an old photograph tucked inside a drawer. Ethan's life had grown full again, new commissions, friends, laughter. That felt real this time. Yet sometimes, when rain tapped against the window, his mind drifted back to her, not in longing, but in gratitude. The wound that once bled now glowed faintly, a reminder that even endings can be beautiful if you survive. Claire returned to the small coastal town for the first time since she left. The streets looked smaller, the houses quieter. She carried no suitcase this time, only a sketchbook filled with her own art. Drawings of forgiveness, resilience, and light. She wasn't searching for him. She was searching for closure. They met by chance. Or maybe fate had waited for this moment. Ethan was leaving the local gallery when he saw her standing across the street. Time slowed, not with shock, but recognition. No words were needed. A smile crossed his face first, then hers, the kind only two healed souls can share. Soft, grateful, complete. They walked together along the beach, talking like old friends. No confessions, no tears. Just laughter, soft and fleeting, like the tide itself. When she turned to leave, Ethan didn't stop her. He simply said, "Take care of your light." She nodded, her eyes glimmering. "You taught me how to find it." As the sky dimmed into twilight, Ethan stood alone where the waves met the sand. He closed his eyes and felt the wind lift through his hair. Somewhere in the distance, he imagined her sketching again, their stories running parallel, not entwined, but forever touched. Love, he finally understood, isn't always meant to last. Sometimes, it's just meant to teach.